Before I give a hopefully excellent analysis of the concert I just saw, Morrissey in Rochester at the Kodak Center, November 16, 2024, and before I tell you what it's like seeing him every 16 years of my life, every year that I've been alive, before I talk about the heartwarming story of intergenerational love and music appreciation, I must address the elephant in the room. Why did I call this video, Uh-oh, I saw Morrissey in concert, and he was great? Because the elephant in the room is, of course, Morrissey is a right-wing xenophobe. Now, I've talked about this before in many different places on different videos about Morrissey, even on another channel, Foreign Man in a Foreign Land. We talked all about the Smiths over there. And listen, if the fact I'm talking about Morrissey means you will not listen to me talk about Morrissey, cool, fine, I don't mind you clicking off. But before I get started, I want to just throw one more way of thinking about this dislike of Morrissey the person, because that's the problem. There's two things that are at odds here. There's Morrissey the idea and Morrissey the person. And the former has been betrayed by the latter, which is to say, Morrissey the idea, the lower class, son of immigrants, the outcast searching for meaning in old magazines and glamour outside the bounds of society, forging his own way with a sardonic wit, fearless and outspoken. He was like us, especially us when we were younger. He was our champion of the marginalized and the self-marginalized, especially the self-marginalized. He was our figurehead. And for those who grew up with him, for the most part, we grew up to be people who championed the marginalized. And then all of a sudden, we were betrayed by our figurehead. We were betrayed by this lovable misanthrope. We were betrayed by our lovable misanthrope. And that's the problem. The problem is not a specific one of Morrissey the person being a xenophobe or a right-wing guy or a bigot. It's that he has always been a misanthrope. And the thing with misanthropes is they are seductive. Okay? You see the figure of a misanthrope because they reject society. They draw us in. You see, I put a picture of Morrissey over the picture of Alceste here for Le Misanthrope by Molière. It's a play from the 17th century. And the whole idea is that somebody who hates people should be avoided and distrusted, and we should not like people who hate people. But over time, thanks to the influence of Romanticism and 18th century malarkey and 19th century malarkey, we have come in our society to look up to misanthropes, to people who hate people. Anthrope means people, mis means hate. It literally means they hate all people. And in particular, I think we need to be careful. Going forward, we should learn something from this betrayal of Morrissey, because it's not a betrayal. It's actually in keeping. There's sort of three kinds of people, three kinds of misanthropes who I think will always disappoint us. First of all, super atheists. Now, I'm not saying all atheists. A lot of my favorite people are atheists. Not believing in God is a fine thing to not believe in. But the people who get super into it, the people who build up an identity around it, inevitably they end up becoming not very good people. People who are really against people having children. Hey, you don't want to have children? Cool, fine, no problem. But there are some people who think that the act of having children is a problem and is bad. You should probably be careful around those people as well. They will probably disappoint you in some way. And finally, people who prefer animals to humans. It's just not a good sign. It's a sign of something kind of broken, and don't expect people who prefer animals to human beings to be good to people. It just does not make sense. Sorry, that's a hawk. Something's about to get eaten right now. That was awesome. Did you hear that? Sorry, I love birds. Misanthropes are not good people. That's the problem. They're just not. Because you can't be a good person and hate people. You just can't. So we should have known from the very beginning when we were championing Morrissey because it seemed like he hated Thatcher and we hated Thatcher. Nah, he just hates people. Now, they're not good people. That doesn't mean they can't be good artists, and it doesn't mean they can't be good performers. While researching this video, I decided to look up some of the anti-Morrissey writing that's been done. And there's a really good article by Randall Roberts from the LA Times a couple years ago entitled "Morrissey is Anti-Immigrant and Backs a White Nationalist Political Party. Why Don't Fans Care?" His conclusion, after quoting Billy Bragg for like 45 minutes, is this: such tensions can drive great art and can prompt an essential question on fandom. Which is more powerful? The thrill that rushes into your spirit when you connect with a song or an album, or the disappointment that comes with realizing you don't share essential values with its creator? I choose to discuss the thrill that rushes into my spirit when I connect with the song in this concert. Because misanthropes are not good people, but they can be good artists, they can be good performers, and holy cow, I was not expecting Morrissey to be this good. I just was not. Okay? When I see performers of a certain caliber of importance in my life, like Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, I have a lowered expectation of just knowing, hey, they've meant a lot to me, but they're older now. It's hard to keep up. Somehow, Morrissey absolutely blew away my expectations. He is way better than he was 16 years ago, almost as good as he was 32 years ago, and thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who has indeed seen Morrissey every 16 years that he's been alive. And I'm going to discuss those shows in context to the new show, because I think it's fun. It's not on purpose. Morrissey and the Smiths are some of the most important musicians to me in my life. So on September 19th, 1992 at Brandeis University, I was 15 years old, Morrissey was 33. I went with my brother, okay? My brother who introduced me to Morrissey, into the Smiths. I was way more of a Morrissey fan than a Smiths fan back then, and I go to see this show. I don't know if that is the best concert I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of great concerts in my life. I'm very lucky. But I will say it is definitely a top 5 concert. It was absolutely amazing. It was Morrissey at his peak. It was the closest I would ever feel to, like, watching Elvis Presley or something. He was in his rockabilly mode. He's wearing this, like, gold lame shirt, sticking out his tongue, feeling his body, taking his shirt off, whipping around his microphone all over the place. I've described this before. That was the most sexually confusing moment of my life, because I've always been straight, I've always been attracted to women, never attracted to men. But being a 15-year-old boy and seeing Morrissey at 33 at that point, I was like, I think I want that. Now, what was actually happening was not sexual attraction. It was the first time in my life of understanding that men could be attractive. So, you know, I've given myself plenty of chances to figure out if I'm attracted to men. I'm just not. But, like, that was such an amazing moment, like, seriously, and mixed up with how good the music was, and all the people rushing on stage and grabbing him. And he didn't play any Smith songs. Hell no, was he going to play that old band. He was just playing all of his new stuff, off of Your Arsenal, off of Kill Uncle, off of Viva Hate. It's wild because that's even before he hit his real stride, like his real artistic stride as a solo artist. I think starts right at that period and keeps going. So that was just amazing. Stays in my mind. 16 years later, September 28th, 2008, at the Santa Barbara Bowl. He was 48, I was 31. I was with my eventual ex-wife. I had 2 babies at home who are now teenagers, and it was one of the worst concerts I've ever seen. I was so disappointed. He was terrible. His voice, his presence, everything, so much Smith's music. It just felt like he was just trying to throw it in there to get people to care about anything. He starts off with Stop Me If You Think You Heard This Before. He opens with a Smith song. He's that unconfident in his own art. And then he goes into First of the Gang to Die, which I hated at the time. I thought it's a terrible song. Bad voice, low energy. And worst of all, so I have a weird thing where my favorite song of all time is Ask by the Smiths, but that's not my favorite Smith song. My favorite Smith song is Boy the Thorn in His Side. And you'd think I'd be excited to see Morrissey perform Boy the Thorn in His Side, but it was maybe the worst thing I've ever seen in concert. Not because it was like the worst or whatever, but like he didn't sing it well. It didn't connect with me. This song, which had helped me out so many times through my life, was just being butchered. And that was where I left it with Morrissey, you know? Around that time is where I stopped buying his music the day it came out. It was where I stopped listening to his albums until I knew every single song and memorized them. Around that kind of You Are the Quarry, Ringleader, The Tormentors kind of time, like I just kind of dropped out. And at the same time, he was doing more and more of this kind of right-wingy stuff, and I just kind of dropped off. So then fast forward 16 more years, okay? 11/16/2024, yesterday. I don't know, it's a weird thing, right? It's a weird thing. It's like he's a locust or something. It's like he just pops in and he just pops into my life, and then I see him. He's 65, and now I'm 47, right? But this show, it's unbelievable how good it was, based on how bad it was in 2008. Maybe it's my expectations. I don't know. I go with my daughter, my 16-year-old daughter. It's weird, right? All these coincidences. All these things kind of drop into place. I guess I was 15 when I saw the first show, but still, pretty wild. You know, I basically raised her on the Smiths and on Morrissey, but like, we have a lot of music in the house. If you saw my last video, which statistically you didn't, it was a video that I reviewed because she wanted me to review it. You know, in our house, it's not a One Direction thing where like, you will like my music and all my old friends will say your kids have good taste in music and I will feel good. No, it's not. I'll listen to whatever. I'll listen to whatever they listen to. I'll listen to. Okay, but it goes that other way. And what was interesting was I bought 3 tickets. The hope was I'd go with my wife. We have a 2-month-old baby. It was probably not going to happen. It couldn't happen. So then, oh my God, my brother lives in town. The same brother who brought me in 1992. Perfect. This will be like a perfect moment, you know. Brothers don't always have the best relationships, and we've had our ups and downs, and like this would be like a really nice moment together, and like we're sort of in a period of healing, and it's really nice, and it feels good. So like maybe this will be that whole moment. And then he sends me a text that he's sick. And God damn it. That would have been so much fun. You know, the guy who introduced me to Morrissey, you know, but okay. And then my daughter has a friend who she wanted to bring, and I was like, I don't know. Maybe just be better if it was just the 2 of us. So it was just the 2 of us. And this is part of the show, and part of why it's so much fun, is it ended up being the most important... It ended up being probably maybe the most important thing that I've ever done with my daughter. Like, it ended up being, and like we were not expecting it at all. So it starts off with her describing how funny it would be if I did a meme. So she's like, there's some kind of meme on the internet where you say, I hope they play Hot to Go, or you say, I hope they play Fiend, and then they just film you saying, this isn't a Travis Scott concert, this is whatever, a movie. And I didn't really get the meme, but my daughter begged me to do it. Okay, so we filmed it, and then we sat down, and I have a tradition. Every time I go to a concert, I drink Sprite. Okay, that's my Sprite, and if they have M&Ms, have M&Ms. I don't drink, not really, especially not around my kids, you know. And so like Sprite and M&Ms, and we'll talk about the venue in a second. And so we just sit down there in the middle of just nowhere, and we edit this video together. So I'll show you the meme. It currently has 960 likes, which is a lot for my videos. My last video before that got 147 likes, so I guess my daughter was correct. So wait, how do I do this?
Or Hot to Go.
Okay, here we go.
I hope they play Fiend or Hot to Go concert. This isn't a Scott Travis concert or a Chapel Roan's concert. It's a Morrissey show. I hope they play Fiend or Hot to Go.
Anyways, so, you know, I did that, and that was fun. You know, obviously, I know the song's called Fiend. I saw Fiend in concert, but, you know, I'm playing up the boomer thing. And then we go into the venue. And this is what I realized. Rochester, New York is the place to see the Smiths, is the place to see Morrissey. Don't go to Santa Barbara. What the hell does Santa Barbara have to do with Manchester in the 80s? You need to be in a post-industrial city in decline. Got some dogs over there, too. I can't control those dogs. I can't control my dogs either. Who am I kidding? So, like, it's a post-industrial city in decline that's kind of gray and kind of a bummer. So already, and Rochester, Manchester, it kind of rhymes. Oh, Rochester, so much to answer for. Right? It all goes in perfectly. And then the venue is the Kodak Center. Kodak used to be a super important company. Used to be very, very powerful. Used to be billions and billions of dollars, and now it's basically nothing. And also, it's the mode behind, like, every photograph that Morrissey has ever obsessed over was probably taken with Kodak film. Now, the actual theater itself, you'd think as being one of the major theaters in a not an insignificant city, would be nicer. But it's like, it's this weirdly, like, ugly theater. It's really, really ugly. It reminds me of, like, There's a scene in Contempt, the Jean-Luc Godard movie, where they're in this Italian movie theater, and it feels like that. It feels like an old Italian movie theater. That's just how it feels. It has like these clocks up there. There's no like columns or pomp or circumstance. It feels like a gym in a rural town that was built in like the late 60s, and they really need to update it, but they just didn't. And that's perfect. That's what you want. That's what I want for a Morrissey show. I don't want the Santa Barbara Bowl where it's all nice and everybody's sitting there and all fancily dressed, you know? I didn't know what the crowd would be like. I talked about it with my daughter on the way there. She said it's going to be a bunch of dudes like you and a bunch of people with micro bangs, which it turns out is some kind of dress, some kind of way of wearing hair that's like popular with like young people these days. That's pretty much what it was. It was mostly dudes my age, and then a fair number of people in their early 20s. In the same row as us, there was this kind of like goth trio of like 20 something goths. Like Susie and the Banshees t-shirts. It was cool. It was cool. And then there are a lot of people like me. And it was this really funny thing because, I'm looking at people who are my age, and I'm thinking like, 32 years ago, I saw Morrissey in Brandeis. I said I saw Morrissey at Brandeis, okay? Will you let me say it, birds? 32 years ago, I saw Morrissey at Brandeis University. And like, everybody was my age. Everybody was 15 to 25. He was 33. It's fascinating to have this little like slice into aging as people go. We did spend a little bit of time kind of just kicking around before the show. My daughter went up and tried to get something from PETA because PETA was there. This imagery, that's not actually how Morrissey looks. I'm not a fan of PETA. They often do more harm to animals than good in the name of good. It feels to me often like a misanthropic organization. I think they try to do good, but I think, anyways. But hey, have I ever been vegetarian? Yeah, I was vegetarian for like 6 years. What was the main reason I was vegetarian? Okay, well, it was the episode of The Simpsons with Paul McCartney. But after that, it was because of Morrissey and Mita's murder. Okay, so definitely, anyways, this is the only piece of merch that I got from it. We were sitting there and arguing about the merch. Not arguing, but discussing the merch because she really wanted some. And she ended up getting this awesome black sweatshirt that says on the arms, "Fall into my arms, I want you." It's very kind of cool. Now listen, there was no opener. They did this kind of sad thing of just like... Morrissey's musical jukebox of like music videos of like, I don't know, The Jam and David Bowie, and this is kind of late 70s, early 80s post-punk, pre-punk music, some Stooges in there too, and like it's okay, but it felt a little like sad with all these old people watching these old videos. The wild thing is, because I have a 2-month-old at home, we don't mess around. We mask up in public places. But because I had that extra seat, and then for whatever reason, the gods decided to have us 3 seats on either side of us. It was a sold-out show, but we had a 3-seat buffer on both sides, so we were able to be without masks. It was just great. There's this hilarious moment where my daughter wanted to wear this sweatshirt, but she wanted to be baggy. I guess that's the style, and it just wasn't baggy enough. So she's like, "I'm going to go return it." I'm like, "Okay." I don't want to bug the goth trio, because the goth trio was down the hallway from us. And so I was like, "Well, just jump in front of the chair in front of you." She's like, "I'm not going to bother anybody." No, just jump in front. And the way she jumped in front, she's like, whoosh. And then I haven't even told her yet. There was this woman who looked over and was like this. Whoa! So I was like, "Don't worry, you won't bother anybody." And she jumps over the seat in front. Ooh. Okay, so now we get to the show. If you like what you see so far, smash like button, subscribe, AVAA. If you want, write a long diatribe about why it's not ethical for me to talk about Morrissey. You can do it. I don't entirely disagree with you. But again, it's a question of misanthropy. Okay? Part of the problem is we live in a culture that celebrates misanthropy. It's not cool. The other problem with our society is, do you know what the opposite of misanthropy is? Philanthropy, the love of people. And we've reduced love of people to being billionaires who give thousands of dollars to people. Most philanthropists are misanthropists, okay? Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, they aren't philanthropists. They don't love people. They love tax breaks. They love seeming nice. If they were really nice, you would know there's no such thing as a good billionaire. And you'd give away your money until you just had enough money to live forever as richly as you like. Okay, anyways. Starts off with an image of James Baldwin and an American flag. Oh, Morrissey. Okay, all right, cool. I mean, James Baldwin, a very interesting intersectional figure of both sort of gay history and Black American history and European history, because he spent a lot of time in Europe as well. Political thinker, philosopher, very sort of, for somebody who is often accused of using racist imagery, as Morrissey will sometimes do, it makes sense that he would do this, but I don't know. It's just, it could be, at the end of the day, the best thing about Morrissey's artistry is not even his music. It's his aesthetic. It's his ability to find images, still photos, and use those to illustrate his idea. At the end of this video, I will take you on a tour I have every single Smiths promo poster, singles, and albums, okay? There's like 30 of them, tons. I have them all framed up on my wall. And it's because he and Joe Slee worked together, and I think his idea, his ability to just pick these images and imbue them with such strength and such power, that's what makes his concerts so great. In 1992, I bought this t-shirt of this dude with like a baby on a beach. And it turns out it was like this famous killer gangster, and like just that image was behind him. And you just like look at these images and you see the music, and it's just like you're back, like you're back in your room and you're looking at Joe D'Alessandro's chest while you're listening to the first Smiths album, like you just feel this. There's this like ineffable connection between these images. And what's great is he doesn't always take iconic images. He takes just like sort of like random images and then gives them this power and the strength through his music and through his selection. Like, we have to remember that the reason that we relate to him, despite his misanthropy or because of his misanthropy, is that he is a kid who spent his teenage years sitting in his room in Manchester. I've been there. I made a Manchester tour I have a tour of Manchester. I'll include a link to it somewhere. I did it long time ago. And you can see his bedroom and a little council flat, whatever. And he would sit in his bedroom and he'd just look through like celebrity magazines and like rock magazines and like cut out pictures and draw on them and just fantasize about that life, like that feeling. If you could take that feeling of feeling cooped up and wanting more and knowing you're not going to get more and put that into music, that's what Morrissey did. And it can't be taken away. Now, the best thing about this concert for me is I have 2 new favorite Morrissey songs. Now, for most of my life, I have preferred Morrissey to the Smiths, but that was the first half of my life. The second half of my life, all praise to Alan White and Boz Brewer, but you're not gonna be Johnny Marr, right? So like, just whatever. But still, his last 5 or 6 albums, I have listened to 1/100th as much as his first 6 albums, right? But so I'll get to those soon. Now it starts off with "You're the One for Me, Fatty." I'm right back in 1992, and another black and white image behind, and he hates people and his tambourine. Dude goes so hard on his tambourine, but I like the tambourine because it's a reminder his voice is his voice. You're not hearing any tape over. You're not hearing any recording because he is hitting his tambourine so hard, so insistent. And he has this kind of loose and okay, so like in 1992 he was just pure sex, or I guess asexual. So he was just pure asex, okay? It's whatever that was. But he knows he can't be that. He's 65 years old. So he does this kind of like sort of like half sexy, half joking, sort of like lazy energy that I really enjoy. Back in 92, I think he started off with, you're going to need somebody on your side. He's just whipping the microphone the whole time. I remember just watching him like, why is he whipping the microphone so much? Or why is he doing it? Like, now he's doing just a little bit kind of lazier, Now, how does he look? Okay. Suffer the little children. That's a pretty energetic background today, huh? Hawks and kids and dogs. No leaf blowers. Leaf blowers turn me into a misanthrope. So how do I describe the way he looks now? First of all, his outfit it reminds me kind of a jumpsuit, he sort of reminded me in his build of Michael Myers from the Halloween movies. And the way the light was on his face often looked like a mask. So like he had kind of that, but it also sort of looks like a gi. So it sort of reminded me of not fat Elvis, not like fat Elvis, but early fat Elvis, kind of middle fat Elvis, where he was really into karate and wearing gis. So that's how I think he looked like. A cross between Michael Myers and Elvis doing karate. That's what I think he looked like. Now, in 2008, I thought he just looked like Anthony Hopkins. He just, to me, just the barrel chest and the Britishness and all that. But here, no. And hey. We should all be so lucky to look as good when we're 65. I like that his hair's white. I like that he's balding. I like that he's allowing that to happen. I like that he has that kind of dignity. Okay, and then we go to the song Alma Maters. I've never really liked the song. Maladjusted was the first Morrissey album where I was like, oh, he can miss. Because I did not think he could miss. I really didn't. More great black and white images behind. He's hemming it up so hard. He's just like a musical. In mind, body, and soul. Like he's really hemming it up. Maybe his time in Vegas helped him out. And the question that my daughter asked me was, does his voice hold up? Well, they say no. I say yes. His voice absolutely holds up. It is way better than it was in 2008. And then, okay, I cheat. I do a new thing. I'm not proud of it. As a music purist, I don't think you should do this, but as somebody who enjoys life, I think you should. If you know you're going to see a concert and you know that you do not know that person's catalog front to back, there's a website called Setlist FM, and you can look up the set list of the band you're about to watch. So, like, listen, I don't know California Sun very well. Really past ringleader of the Tormentors, like, I don't really know his music super well. I've listened to those albums a couple times. So you go on setlist.fm, and then you can make a playlist out of his most likely set list. And then you can listen to that for weeks leading up to the show. And it's great because it helps you become familiar with these songs. It helps you to find value in these songs. You know, songs like I Am Veronica, like I've never liked that song, and I've been listening to it over and over again, and I saw it in concert, and it was really great, you know? So the purist in me is really against that. Is really against that idea. Like, do not do that. But then the part of me that loves life did that. And so I did that playlist, and I shared it with my daughter. And she knows a lot of Morrissey stuff, but I did a trick. I didn't put on any Smith songs or any Morrissey songs that I knew she knew. So at this point, right... Okay, I just looked over in the back of the woods, and I actually... This little girl just stared at me like a Japanese ghost. She's not Japanese or anything, a little blonde-haired kid. But, you know, like in Japanese horror movies, you know, just little kids looking at you like that. I just got that. So listen, if anything horrific happens now, it's because of that. So I leaned over to my daughter before the next song, which I guessed was going to be Shoplifters, and I say, I didn't put on every song he might play. And then Shoplifters of the World came on, and she freaked out. It was awesome. It was because, you know, like, she did her homework. She listened to, you know, the lazy, you know, all the Lazy Dyke songs, and she listened to all the other stuff, and she was ready. And then she got this little treat of getting to hear Shoplifters of the World, and this great, like, this image of these, like, punks behind the screen, just awesome, like, not black and white, but color images. And he goes on to describe what the song's all about, but then he just kind of bails on it. And then bam, right into I Wish You Lonely, you know, going in between, like, the songs that everybody knows and the songs that only people who really pay attention to the Smiths know. Great synths here. I love it. I love the claps on this song. I really, really enjoyed this song. Like, I enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed Shoplifters, even though I did not know this song as well. He did a lot of banter, which was cool. He talked a lot to the crowd. He said, you know, it's nice to see you, and then he said, oh, it's a very valid point, you know. He reminded me actually a fair amount, in general, his personality. So I lived in Santa Barbara, and John Cleese of Monty Python lives in Santa Barbara. And actually my thesis advisor was friends with him and stuff. And anyways, part of the reason I took a Moliere class is there was a chance that John Cleese was going to take this class too. He didn't. Anyway, so he gave a speech at Santa Barbara, and, like, he's still John Cleese, but also he was kind of an old white dude, you know? It's like, it's that kind of like, a thing happens to old white dudes, and it happens to some of the best, where like he ended up just having this sort of bitter rant about divorce, and it's just kind of weird and sort of sexist, and it was pre-grumbling about cancel culture, but it was not pre-grumbling about like what I can and can't say stuff, and you know, that's why we idolize people who die young, because they can't disappoint you. And he refers to the past as another country. I can confirm. The Skye that went to the bowl to see Morrissey with his future ex-wife, that's a different country. Brandeis, 1992, that's a different country. Then we get to the song Rebels Without Applause, a new song, like super new, not even on the album. Okay, the song itself is weird. It's like I had a friend who he works in movies. His name is Joe DeVoe. He worked on Silicon Valley. He worked on a whole bunch of stuff. He's like a professional musician, very, very talented. And some of his early jobs were working for beer commercials. And the beer commercials would pay him to make music that was sound-alike. So it was sound-alike music of U2 for a Miller Lite commercial. That was, I think, his first gig. And so it had to, have the waka baka 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 waka baka, but it couldn't actually be a U2 song. This is a sound-alike song of the Smiths, at least musically. But then you listen to the lyrics, and it's a song to the boys of song. And the image that's behind is, I think, the most charming image of the entire night. And I took a picture of it. I don't like spending a lot of my time on the phone during concerts, but I do when it's necessary. So this is the image that was up there. And I think this is how I read this image. This is an image that he cut out of a magazine. That DB for David Bowie and DJ for David Johansen of the New York Dolls, that he saw this image and that he drew on it. And that is a symbol of his love of these boys of music, who he grew up idolizing in the 60s and would somehow get him out of his humdrum town. And there was this moment during the concert, during that song, where he was like waving to them like this, and it's very clear like he was in conversation not just with them but with the him that cut out that image, and that's really powerful. Now, I love kids and I love people, but I do sort of hope those kids quiet down. Like this, I don't know what they're playing. I hear some adults over there trying to get them to stop, but they're not having much success. Then How Soon Is Now, everyone goes crazy, and most of the cameras are filming here. It's kind of sad. This is the last song before the encore back in 2008, which is really sad. I do like that he's saying I'm still the sun and air. I do like the way he's kind of screaming, like the shh sound. I like how the guitarist almost is brave enough to play a different little lead line at the end. I like how he doesn't say you go home and you want to die. He just says you go home and you want to oh. And then just the guy plays gongs. He plays the gong and it's just absolutely awesome. And then it's like, bam, I Am Veronica. It's like, oh, you thought you understood everything? Bam, here comes I Am Veronica. Really, okay. The dude's 65 years old. That's not young. He's been doing this for a long time, okay? The way that he was clapping during this song, not even on microphone, he was just clapping along while the person was doing a harmonica solo. It was this really energetic clap, and I really, really appreciate that level of energy. That's what I didn't see in 2008, and that's what came through on this. And then he said in between, "Are you beginning to start to itch now?" That's very funny, because he knew that, and everyone was happy for How Soon Is Now, but now they're getting bored with his solo music. Which I was not, except for the next song. Sure enough, the telephone rings. Definitely the worst song, because it's like the worst part of Morrissey is when he's too specific with his whinging. Sure enough, the telephone rings. Who wants my money now? I don't know. I will say this, though. I appreciate there's one dude in the front row who was jumping, who's doing like pogo dancing, the whole time. And seeing him dance during here, I was like, that's the guy. Then he mentioned that he was planning on taking an excursion to Rod Serling's grave, but he fell asleep. And I felt like very personally targeted by this comment for a couple reasons. One, Rod Serling, the creator of Twilight Zone, when I was a middle schooler and teenager, I was obsessed with the Twilight Zone. I convinced my parents to subscribe to the Twilight Zone subscription service through Columbia because it was not on TV at the time. So every month I'd get this like cassette tape with 3 or 4 episodes of the Twilight Zone, and I'd watch them. And like that sort of oldie timey black and white connection feeling that Morrissey is able to describe, like that was me. That was me with the Twilight Zone. So him having this connection to Rod Serling is one thing. The other thing is I've been haunted by the fact that this hero of my childhood, Rod Serling, despite the fact he grew up in Syracuse, died in Rochester at the Strong Memorial Hospital. And listen, if you're a gambling man or gambling woman, which you shouldn't do, don't gamble, I'm probably going to die in that hospital. I mean, that's the most likely place of my death is the Strong Memorial Hospital. Now, hopefully it's in 100 years, but most likely that's where I'm going to pass. And when I do, there'll be a little part of me that goes, cool, I'm dying in the same hospital as Rod Serling. So anyways, the most Cemetery Gates thing you could do. And of course he fell asleep. I love that. First of the gang to die. I love it. I didn't like it 16 years ago. I love it now. Maybe because I listened to it on the way to the concert and I enjoyed it. And my daughter really enjoys the song. And then we get to the best song of the night. My new favorite Morrissey song, Life is a Pigsty. This is by far as good as anything I saw in 1992. I got goosebumps the entire way through. My daughter was crying her eyes out the whole way through. This is not some famous, iconic Morrissey song, but it really should be. The vocal acrobatics here are outstanding. His vocal performance was absolutely outstanding. The best vocals I've ever heard him sing, and I'm going back to 92 with that. And the lighting was more atmospheric, and there's this big drum that was played. And this clip, like this, seriously, I'll play a little clip of the concert so that you can see this clip of this dude in the background. And I'm just obsessed with what this clip is and where it's from, because I do not know. What is that image? How did he pick that? Is that Jack Kerouac? It looks sort of like Jack Kerouac. I don't know who it is. What's he even doing? What's he grabbing? Like that weird sort of like oldie-timey, like handsome men, but of a certain level of vulnerability. I don't know how he finds these images, but it matches the song just perfectly. It was a truly great moment, like a true highlight. In the hundreds of concerts I've seen in my life, a absolute true highlight. And at the end, he starts watching the video himself because he also knows how rad this video is and how mysterious it is. What is he giving to whom? What is this that's happening? Who is this guy? What is this face? It is the goddamn coolest thing. It's like it's like looking at his album covers, you know? And it's part of what's funny is that since he was young, he was like grabbing pictures of people who are old now when they were young and hot. Men, right? The women are always old. The women that he depicts are always kind of like in their 40s or 50s, usually women from the north, very kind of hard faces. But the kind of like sexy boys that he always puts on are like Alain Delon or Terrence Stamp on the cover of What Difference Does It Make? You know, like... But now he's old. So he's old looking at pictures that he would have selected when he was young of people who are old now but who were young when the picture was taken. It's all this interesting thing. And then we get to Everydays Like Sunday. My daughter loves this song. Hey, I got to admit something. I don't like this song. I actually don't like Viva Hate very much at all. I like Kill Uncle. To me, Kill Uncle is where he started to get good. But his early stuff, I'm not a big fan. So I went to the bathroom. It was cool. But then I missed the intro. Where he said, I'm from hell. And he introduced this band that's mostly from South America, which is cool. A very interesting idea. I X Love You drags a little bit, but that's also how a lot of his old fans feel. They X love him. Please, please, please let me get what I want. I don't have any notes on this because my daughter demanded that I record it for her because she was just so unbelievably moved. she just begged me to record it. So I'm like, all right, fine. But from what I remember, it was good. And then we get to the next highlight, Darling, I Hug a Pillow, a song which I know, but holy cow, this song is great. I wish he'd do more of this kind of production stuff. Again, I get goosebumps. Even though the horns were played on the synthesizer, maybe even on a tape. I don't know. Why don't you show me physical love? Oh, the way he's hitting it so hard, it's so great. And then we get to the loop. Back to 1992, the rockabilly style that made me fall in love with him, you know? The guy's playing the stand-up bass, and he's hitting maracas like crazy. There's a picture of this hard northern woman behind. He throws the maracas at her. Oh, it's just beautiful. Jack the Ripper. This is a GIF I was able to recognize because it's the hand that says hate from Sleepy Bob Mitchum from the movie Night of the Hunter. Gets totally smoke-filled. He changes all the phrasing on the singing. It's this great... He just starts talking about the rats at the end. And then, Dear God, Please Help Me. Another one of these new songs, which is probably 13 years old at this point, but a new song to me. Anything after Maladjusted is new to me because I just, I don't like it as much. But this song is one of his best songs. And it's great because it shows this image of Jesus and like one of those religious tracks. It says, if you feel hated, remember they hated me before they hated you. But then this whole song is like about wondering about if like, Dear God, Please Help Me. And I think the song is about being gay and about wanting to have sex with men and needing help. Not necessarily because having sex with men is wrong, but because like he just needs help. Like whatever's happening with him, he needs help. And so it makes this whole idea of, before the world hated Jesus, it hated gay people, right? Like that's maybe sort of transitioning this kind of meaning. And he's actually, it seems to me like he's talking to God about being gay, which maybe he's not, but that's my interpretation of the song, which gives it this absolute power. Reminds me, my father did not give me the Facts of Life talk. There's three pieces to the Facts of Life talk. One, he showed me a stick of deodorant and says, Skye bar, you know about this stuff? The other one was he explained why to never go to a prostitute because you are becoming one with somebody when you have sex and you don't want to become one with a stranger. Okay, I'll be zapped into my brain forever. And then the third thing he said, and this is his best piece of advice, he said, Jesus got boners. And then he went upstairs. he just said Jesus got boners and went upstairs. That was it. And I gotta tell you, into my brain. First of all, it's a great piece of theology, right? Because the whole point of Jesus is that he's God come down to earth, right? But then also, it's a reminder that, all human beings have those feelings. That's why Jesus took on human form. So anyways, if I could have a conversation with Morrissey, that's what I would say. I wouldn't say, your music meant so much to me, which it did. I wouldn't say, I would just say, I want to tell you a story about my father's Facts of Life. And I think he'd enjoy it. I Will See You in Far Off Places, a more modern rocking song. I don't know who it is that won't bomb you. He doesn't say the USA. He said someone else. I'm kind of afraid to look it up because maybe he'll say something weird and xenophobic. My daughter got super mad because there weren't that many other teenagers there, but there's one other teenager who was 2 rows ahead of us, had other Kevin hair, TikTok hair, and was on his phone the entire time. And she's like, I just want to grab his phone and smash it. Very, very funny. I couldn't get a chant going before the encore. I couldn't. I tried Morrissey, Morrissey. I tried Mazza. I tried encore. Rochester, you suck at encores, but no one sat down the entire show. Very cool 40 and 50-year-old dudes and ladies. Very cool. By the way, probably about 50-50, male-female. Gotta love it. They ended with Speedway. The South American band sort of introduces itself, or the Hispanophone band introduces itself. Talks about getting drunk after there. And then the image behind is Bruce Lee. And I felt like I was right. I was thinking Bruce Lee with his outfit. Now he's wearing a blazer now for some reason. I should also mention he never rips off his shirt, which is good. He ripped off his shirt, I think, twice in 2008, and it was just kind of weird and sad because he looked like Anthony Hopkins, not like Morrissey. It's okay to get older, So he did consistently unbutton his shirt, and he would sort of like kind of open it like Superman style. But anyways, no stage rushers here, which is fine. the stage rushing was so exciting in 92 because I didn't know you could do that. And the way that he would always act would be kind of like annoyed and like, but like not angry, just like, anyway, just great. And then this great loud noises with this weird, I think it might have been from Andalusian Dog, some kind of little still of like someone shooting themselves, but very sort of fancifully in black and white. And maybe it's a Jean Cocteau. Actually, that looked a lot more Jean Cocteau than Dali, but I don't know. And then the sound ends. And as we left, my daughter said that was the best concert I've ever seen. She said that was better than Billie Eilish. She said, I've never cried that much at a concert. And she said, I did not understand how important. I did not understand how important Morrissey was to me. And it was like, it was this crazy moment because like, I'd never like sat her down and said, you know, this is good music, this is good feeling or whatever. But like whatever it was that Morrissey and the Smiths gave to me when I was younger, like that's eternal. That's going to be good in 3 centuries. That's going to be good in 10 centuries. Because it's that feeling of spending too much time in your room and feeling like an outsider and longing for more and longing for a happiness that you feel will never come. So she was blindsided by the fact that had so gotten into her mind that like seeing Morrissey was the most important thing she could do, and she thought it would be just like when we went to go see Bob Dylan together. Here's some cool old dude playing. So it ended up being this perfect thing, this perfect sort of daddy-daughter time. This morning I made biscuits for my family, and I'd never kneaded dough before. So I said, I've never kneaded anything before. And I realized that sounded like a Smiths line. I also wanted to show you the birthday card that my daughter made for me this year. Anyways, that's my dog Bo. That's an imitation of the Hatful of Hollow cover. And, you know, I don't know. Maybe this should be merch. This is pretty good. I promised I'd show you the posters on the inside, so I'm going to do that. Thank you to my Patreons. I don't have time to show you off. But yeah, that was my surprise. So you can hear different kids screaming inside. There's the cover model. Hey, Bo. Yeah, you're the cover model. Yeah, there's Toby. Yeah, I know. I do love animals. So anyways, that's my collection. Super happy with these. Really, really love them. Really love his aesthetic. And I love that it continued and that he still does it because that stuff doesn't age. The ability to find images like this, or like that, or like that, and tie it into the feeling of the music, that doesn't age. All right. It smells as though my wife is making stuffed peppers of some sort. There's the camera.